We were born before the wind, also younger than the sun, and the bonnet boat was one. Yeah, we sailed into the mystic. Hark! Now I hear the sailors cry. Smell the sea and feel the sky. Oh, let your soul and spirit fly into the mystic. When that foghorn blows, you know I won't be coming home. When that foghorn blows, I want to hear it. I don't have to fear it. I want to rock your gypsy soul. Mama just like right back in the day of the road. And together we were born into the mystic. When that foghorn blows, you know I will be coming home. When that foghorn blows, I want to hear it. I have to feel it. I wanna rock your gypsy soul. So long we're back in the day of the road. And unanimously we were born into the mystic. Baby, 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 baby. Oh, let your body know. Oh, let your man run on. I just wanna rock. Just wanna rock your soul, baby. Let's wanna rock. Just wanna rock. Your jolly roll soul. Still don't wanna rock. Jolly roll soul. Let your body go. Yeah, I wanna rock your soul, baby. I just wanna rock your soul, baby. Mama. Huh. Oh, yeah.
Good evening, and welcome to tonight's show, Public Housing, A Time for Action. Before we get into the show, I just want to mention to some of the residents at Mystic Housing Development, there'll be another videotape showing some more of the scenes shot up there. So stay with the show and you'll see it at the end, and that's especially for the people who are taped doing breakdancing. Tonight's show is on public housing and particularly on the issue of security. And the guests on our show tonight are residents of the two developments here in Somerville. Before I introduce them, I'd like to say just a word about public housing. I think that most Americans agree today that everyone is entitled to a safe, affordable, decent place to live. I think public housing in general has a bad reputation, although statistics show that about 65% of the developments could be characterized as safe, affordable, decent places to live. There are real serious questions to be asked about the developments here in Somerville. I think a tendency of a lot of people is to blame the residents of those developments for the problems. I think people who do this should stay tuned into this show, and we'll have an opportunity to talk to some of the residents who have been spending a great deal of time and showing a great deal of courage in trying to do something to improve life in these developments. So without going on too much further, I'd like to start now by introducing the guests on tonight's show. Our first guest from the Mystic Housing Development is Judy Schumann. And also from the Mystic Housing Development next to her is Linda McMillan. From the Clarendon Hill Housing Development, we have Sally Eden. And then again from Mystic Housing Development, we have Betty McNeil. And then also from Mystic, we have Marilyn White. I'm just going to throw this question out to all of you. How did you all meet each other? I'll just let someone pick it up. How did this all get started?
Well, we're all tenants, most of us except for Sally are all tenants at Mystic. And we got invited to a meeting someplace one night. And we went over to see what was going on, and we started discussing some of the problems that we have in Mystic and in the developments around the city, mainly security issues and maintenance issues. And then we decided it was time to do something about it, that it wasn't getting any better, it was getting worse. So there was, I think, 7 or 8 of us to begin with that went door knocking to every apartment in Mystic, North Street, the elderly, handicapped, and it took a lot of time to get the public hearing together, but we finally did it.
When was the public hearing?
June 20th.
22nd. June 22nd.
June 22nd? And that was at the Healy School, is that correct?
Yes.
Which is right up above the Mystic Housing Development.
Yep.
Was that hearing for residents of all public housing in the city, or is it just focused on Mystic?
No, it was a public housing hearing for all public housing tenants in Somerville.
The next question I'd like to ask is for each of you to sort of think of some brief way to describe to people, just assume they don't know anything about your problems in these developments. Maybe we'll start with you, Sally. Say, how would you describe the security problem? You know, what really bothers you?
Well, it not only bothers me, but it bothers a lot of tenants up there, especially the elderly. There's been a lot of drinking. We were promised security 7 nights a week, and we did not get it. And there's been stabbings, bombings, shootings, robberies, a lot of drinking, dancing on the top of the cars Sunday night. Kept a lot of people up, and the security just wasn't there.
What happens when these incidents you're describing happen? Does anyone show up? You know, did the police come?
Well,
are there security people running around who try and stop these things? Is it just too much for the ones who are there? Just try to be as,
No.
give people a real idea of what it's like.
The security is not there. They're supposed to be there from 4 in the afternoon to 12 midnight, and they are just not there. No one has seen them. Last night I was putting flyers under the door for our meeting tomorrow night, and one group of people met me, and they were asking where security was. That Sunday night it was just terrible. They were looking for security last night. This was at 8 o'clock at night. There was no security around. Another group of people met me further on into the development, and they also were looking for security because the kids were throwing mud against the elderly center's door, and there had been some drinking, and security is just not around.
Judy,
And the people are very angry.
Judy, would you add to this from your experience at the Mystic? Would you describe similar situations there? Is it pretty much the same situation? What's your best short description of the problem?
Well, we have everything from drugs to vandalism and to alcohol. I personally feel as though it's drugs. You know, they're rampant. We have children. We have over 1,500 children in our department alone. And when you have children that can't even walk down into the parking lot to go to the basketball courts, to go out to the streets, the other side, to maybe a friend's house because they have to get beyond the drugs or some alcohol or something, and they think that this is a way of life. You know, they know no different. And now it's getting to where the urinating is done quite openly, quite publicly. They don't care if small children are there, be they girls, be they boys. You know, it's we have a security thing now. As you'll find out as you go into the program, we have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays 2 detailed policemen there, and we do have Hal and Fred, our other security, that is supposed to be up on North Street. So I mean, you'll find this out as you go into the program. You know.
Marilyn, would you like to add, a little bit about your own experiences?
Well, I go along with Julie as far as the drugs down here. I think the drugs are terrible. And, it's not so much the age of the people, it's the tiny kids we're talking about, 8, 10, 12 years old. It is nothing to see a kid at 12 years old with a joint. It's one of the most common things there. And this is something that we would like to try to see if we couldn't, if not stop altogether, at least try to control it.
Betty?
I feel the same way. The main thing is drugs. Definitely drugs. They have to go down there. It doesn't seem anything's being done. They'll stop and the police will take an open can of beer away from them, but they just let the drugs keep riding and riding. There's nothing ever done down there about them.
Back to you, Linda.
Well, I kind of feel the same way that drugs are important. I also feel that there's too much drinking going on down there. It wouldn't be bad if they sat and they drank and kept quiet, but once they sit and drink, then trouble breaks out.
What kind of trouble?
Fights.
Fights?
We've had numerous fights down there where, one police car couldn't handle it, neither can two. They've had to call in state police to help and MDC police to help. It has gotten a little bit better. The rate of crime has decreased down there, but it's still not the way it should be. It's not a safe place to bring your children up in.
Would you feel safe walking out and telling people, to leave who are causing this kind of trouble?
Well, one of the main problems before the meeting down at Mystic were we had community service officers who couldn't because they had no powers or wouldn't go into a group and tell them to leave. Now that we have the detail 4 nights a week, they will go over and try to disperse the groups, and even they still can't enforce the open container law. But it's they're doing a good job basically, but it's still not enough.
The program's going to run out.
I saw you starting to laugh, Judy. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, the program that we have right now is actually, if you watch the tape, you'll see it is not what we walked away thinking we were going to get. But we do have, detail down at Mystics. Unfortunately, they don't have it up at Clarendon Hill, but we do have it. And this program was only for 10 weeks, and it's about to run out.
And that's the community service officers.
And no, this is for our police detail.
Oh, for a police detail to
Right.
add to the.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have a community service officers that literally, and in a way you can't really blame them. They're not going to walk into a group of people with drugs or with knives, with fighting, with heavily well, what's the word I'm looking for? For lack of it, indulging in alcohol. They do have walkie-talkies. They'll drive around the corner. They will call for a police to come in, but they won't approach it.
Sounds like a very intimidating situation, but that's why I asked. I just wanted to try and get a real picture of what everyone thinks the problem is. I think now we do have this tape of the hearing that's quite long. I think it's almost an hour long, and we're going to give everyone a chance to take a look at that, and we'll look at it again ourselves, and I think there will be some discussion in the tape. There were promises made to you of some kind. I want to warn the audience there's a short break in the tape about 40 minutes into it. It'll only take about 7 seconds or so bear with us. We have the tape, so let's take a look at it now.
My name is Durand. Everybody calls me Link. Link Durand. I live in the area of public housing in the Mystic Development. We have had a number of people from the Mystic Development working for a long period of time to set this meeting up. It's a very important meeting because number one problem in public housing is security or lack of security, whichever way you want to put it. And we have 4 people sitting at this table over here who are going to be talking on the subject. My job is to welcome all of you. It's a fine turnout. Glad to see so many people who are interested in security problems in public housing. I would like to introduce at the table Mrs. Linda McMillan. Mrs. Betty McNeil. Mrs. Marilyn White. And Mrs. Sheila Silva. We have a young woman who came here tonight from Boston. She's from the Executive Office of Communities and Development. That is the bureaucracy that supplies the money to state public housing. That is the organization that says you can have X number of hundreds of thousands of dollars for security or no security or for modernization or for other things that are necessary to keep public housing in good repair. I'm very happy to introduce Ms. Sandy Enriquez, who is going to be the moderator, and she is the Director of Housing Management from EOCD. When I talk about moderating, the questions we are going to be asking tonight, many of them are yes or no answers, no speeches. There will be some questions asked that may require an explanation, but you will know when the question is asked whether it's not yes or no. And Ms. Enriquez is the person who is going to moderate and give each person 3 minutes to speak. We don't want any long harangues. Has Mayor Brune arrived? Mayor Brune is supposed to be here this evening. He said he would be here. Officer McLean. Officer McLean is representing the Chief of Police of the City of Somerville. The committee has been told by the Chief of Police that Officer McLean can make decisions tonight. That is correct, Officer McLean? Very good. Captain Bradley? We have our favorite alderman from Ward 4, Joe Mackey, here tonight. We have another favorite of many people in the city of Somerville from Ward 1, Alderman Sal Albano. We are very fortunate in having the Deputy Superintendent of the Metropolitan District Commission. And his name is John Picardi. And we have from Ward 7, Kathy O'Day. The second part of this meeting will be on maintenance. It will not be as long, of course, as the security part. We have Mr. McLaughlin, the Executive Director of the Somerville Housing Agency. We're supposed to have Mr. John Fothergill. Is he here? Is Mr. John Fothergill here? Bill Fothergill, my error. No wonder you didn't answer. He's in the back of the hall. but he will be asked some very pertinent questions on maintenance. And we have, is Mr. Murphy here, Paul Murphy? Mr. Murphy is from the Board of Health of the City of Somerville. With that, I'll close, and I'm going to have Mrs. McMillan make an address. Thank you very much for listening to the introductions.
In our lease, it states that the first responsibility of the Somerville Housing Authority is to permit a resident to quietly and peaceably enjoy the leased premises. Unfortunately, we all know it is not very peaceful living in public housing. We can't deny that some of the problems comes from tenants themselves. But as you can see tonight, the majority of people who live in public housing want to create a safe and quiet neighborhood. One thing we know for sure is tenants cannot deal with the problems of crime, violence, and drugs without the firm support of the city administration, the police, and the housing authority. That's why we are here tonight, not as tenants for Mystic or North Street or any other single development, but as public housing tenants united to discover how these officials here present and tenants can work together to make public housing a safe place to live and a good place to raise our children. Why have we invited everyone here tonight? Because we want something done. We have waited almost 3 months for the authority's lawyer and the city solicitor to simply research a deed and trust agreement, and we don't want to see cooperation between the city and the housing authority put on a back burner any longer. During the many weeks of planning for this meeting, and in talking to many tenants from all over the developments, so many statements and questions kept coming up over and over. Here are a few of them. What is the point of making arrests for drugs if the same people are selling again the next day? Why don't the police move the kids out of the hallways and confiscate the alcohol when they find it? And why aren't arrests being made for violation of the open container ordinance? Now is the time to bring forward the officials who can answer these questions, which will require a simple yes or no answer. At this time, I now invite Mayor Brune, Chief of Police Representative Officer McLean, and Metropolitan District Police Representative Deputy Superintendent John Picardi to step up to the platform. Okay. Officer McLean just informed me that Captain Bradley is his boss and he will be up here instead of him. I'd also like Mr. Mackey to come up at this time, the alderman from Ward 4, and sit with them as he has to leave to go on a fundraising that's been planned for a long time. Before I go into any questions, I'd like to read a letter that we received from the Division of the State Police, Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I'm only going to read 2 paragraphs that says, "The area you mentioned is under the jurisdiction of the Somerville Police Department and should be the organization to assist you. Designating state police personnel on a junction interstate highways to pass through specific areas does not comply with our primary responsibility. But we want you to keep in mind that the Somerville Police Department has the primary responsibility to respond to your area. And if they require assistance from the state police, we shall respond without hesitation." For the benefit of the tenants in the audience, I will ask Mrs. Betty McNeil to grade our public officials on their answers to all our yes or no questions, so that after the meeting we can tally the answers and grade our officials on their responses. Oh, Mayor Brune ain't here yet, huh? Alderman Mackey, could you come up and have you succeeded to obtain any monies for foot patrols in the development? You can give
Okay.
a brief.
Yes. Just for a little background on this matter, I had the opportunity to meet with the steering committee with the chief of police last week to discuss some suggestions as to what the city could do to help the security in Mystic and in North Street. One of the suggestions that was made was foot patrolmen for Mystic and for North Street. The suggestion was both on a short-term basis and a long-term basis. Short-term basis to take care of the needs immediately this summer during the next 10 weeks. And the chief indicated that it would cost in the vicinity of $7,500 to $10,000 to have 2 walking patrolmen at Mystic on, I believe it was Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. It may also have been Wednesday night, I'm not sure. And 1 walking patrolman up at North Street during that same period of time. This would be over the 10-week period starting July 1st through the end of the summer. I spoke with the mayor about this. He's very receptive to that type of arrangement. He also has sat down and spoken with the Housing Authority and Tom Collins and the Housing Authority. They have a certain amount of money, anywhere there's a range of amount of money that they have. The mayor has indicated a willingness to supplement that money that the Housing Authority has to attempt to start those foot patrols on July 1st and continue on through the hot weeks of the summer. My understanding is also that the cruiser was supposed to be, when possible, parked or passing through the Mystic development as often as possible. Not the cruiser, but the wagon that they use to make the arrests. And it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the wagon, the van has been down there each night except when it's called out to make an arrest. So that's the answer to your question. Thank you.
I can't control the mic as far as noise is concerned. They seem to be quite live. Maybe you need a louder voice like mine. Is that it, perhaps? Well, will you remember that, please? Speak up when you're at the mic. I need to introduce Representative Vinnie Pirro, who is supposed to be up here. It is a responsibility of the Mystic Housing Tenants Association to contact representatives of the House and Senate on bills that affect people living in public housing. And I have called Vinnie Pirro's office many, many times. He has supported every bill that MHTA wanted him to support, and he has not supported the bills that MHTA felt were not good for people living in public housing. And I'm very happy that he was able to make this meeting tonight. We also have Vinnie Champa here. He is an alderman in Ward 3, I believe. Alderman at large, sorry about that. Vinnie Champa. All right, can we get on with the questions now, please? And speak loudly into the mic.
It's me.
Get up and ask who the meeting is. Oh, Mayor.
I am sure from the applause you all know who just arrived. The Honorable Eugene Brune, Mayor of the City of Somerville, who would be sitting on the platform.
Mayor Brune, I'm sorry that the minute you walk in, you have to answer a question, but this first question is for you. We want to know, there are two classes of citizens in Somerville, those with full police protection and those of us in public housing who get much less than full protection. These are... Mayor Brune, these are yes or no questions.
How could I ever answer that with a yes or a no?
Try it.
Yes or no?
As far as I'm concerned, there is not two classes of people. And I guess that's why we're here, to decide or to at least discuss if there is two classes of people, what should we do about it? But I can't say
No answer, Linda.
yes, there's two classes of people, because I don't think there is. At least I hope not.
Yeah, we just said no.
I want all people to have the same security, the same rights, the same privileges. So let's discuss it. I'd like to talk more.
You get a chance.
I guess they realize that sometimes I talk too long.
So we think that was a yes or a no?
A show of hands. Was it a yes or a no?
How can they show hands, yes or no?
Okay, we'll give that one a question mark. Lieutenant Bradley, the following series of questions are directed to you. Pay attention, ladies. Number one, will you increase the number of times the cars on their regular patrols swing through all the public housing developments?
The wagon will increase its time down there. The car, I doubt it will be.
This might work too, Lieutenant.
Here, the bottom one.
What I said in response to that question was that I doubt very seriously if the normal patrol car will be able to increase its patrol, but our paddy wagon that's out for the summer will increase the patrol in the housing project. What about the what?
We will be able to ask all our questions after, once we go through all these yes and no's real quick.
Then you have the floor. That's a no then.
Will you develop patrol plans to specifically cover the areas inside of the developments?
I can't, what is it?
Will you develop patrol plans to specifically cover the areas inside the developments?
As planning has gone on, there has become money available in order to do that, and as long as the money is available, continues to be available, yes, we will.
Will you have police respond quickly to calls on vandalism of outside door locks when we get them at Mystic and North Street?
Vandalism of outside door locks.
Yes, will you have the police respond to this?
We have a new look.
When we get the outside door locks?
You mean if somebody breaks a lock on the door?
Yes.
To an apartment, not to the
To
building?
the outside doors.
To the outside
The
doors,
entry
to the inner
doors.
hallway?
Yes.
No, I can't guarantee you an immediate response to that.
Okay.
Can breaking these outside door locks be classified as breaking and entering?
No. Not into a common hallway, into an individual apartment, can.
Very poor. Will you? Why do we have it
No, it
posted
wouldn't.
no loitering?
I beg your pardon?
Why is it posted no loitering? We have that in our hallways.
Why is it posted no loitering?
Please take notice.
Because on private property, individuals who do not belong there can be asked to leave by a representative of the housing authority. Their refusal can result in their arrest. The problem is, if you live in the housing project, you have the right to be there, and then you're not trespassing. It's trespassing is what it's supposed to cover. And there's a specific statute in the law that covers trespassing, but it has to be applied to outsiders. I beg your pardon?
Would you have cars spend downtime in development?
As long, yeah, because, see, the housing authority, that's the housing authority. It's not an individual building. That's the private property of the Somerville Housing Authority, the whole complex. And that's how it has to be considered in the eyes of the law. You can't break it down into 10A and 10B as two separate buildings, or even River Road from Memorial Road, or wherever. It's the property of, the private property of the Somerville Housing Authority. It's not public property. It's private property. It's not the same as being out on Broadway or being in a park or a playground that's open to everybody. This is private property. It's property of the housing authority
next
to the people that live there. Sure.
Will you have cars spend downtime in the developments? This is definitely a yes or a no question.
Yes. Can I correct the statement that was made by Alderman Mackey about the paddy wagon? I noticed some of you were shaking your head when he said the paddy wagon will continually stay in Mystic Ave unless it's called out. And that was not the agreement, as I understand it, but that it will try to swing through there once every hour, and whenever possible, park on its downtime in there. And that's what we've been trying to accomplish. So you won't see it constantly parked there as a sub-police station and only go out when it gets calls and then immediately return. But we hope to have it in there once every hour, and we hope to have it parked there, and I think that's been accomplished.
We use community development block grant funds to develop some foot patrols in developments.
If they're available, yes.
They're available?
If they're available.
Will you establish a hotline and rapid response strategy for developments that would include reporting incidents of violence, disturbances, and confiscation of alcohol?
If you're willing to set up a committee to meet with representatives of the police department, because that takes a little planning and strategy for both the community and the police, and we would be more than happy to participate in meetings to set that up exactly, yes. I realize it is, but I'm talking about a smaller steering committee of representatives out of here so that you can accomplish something.
Next question. Will you order your dispatcher to respond to calls on hallway disturbances and make these calls a priority?
If you'll clarify priority.
Will you make them important enough to at least come down and put the people, the troublemakers, out of the halls?
At least come down, yes, but not at the expense of other more important calls, no.
Well, the mayor just said there are not two classes of people in Somerville.
That's right, and we do that to everybody.
If I could just interrupt for a second. I think, in all fairness to the police department, when they talk about a priority call, it's the drug raids, it's the murders, it's the burglaries in action, it's those kinds of things, okay? So if you've got people loitering in the hall, it really does go lower down in the scheme of things. For anybody. Okay, all right. Okay. I understand. Thank you.
Control.
Come on now.
Don't kill the messenger.
Lieutenant Bradley, will you have Officer McLean monitor the total number of calls from public housing each week for the next 3 months?
Yes, we can accomplish that.
In this monitoring system, would you tell us, number 1, the number of calls received from public housing? Number 2, the percentage of various reasons for calls. Number 3, the percentage of calls answered. And number 4, how police responded to the call.
Yes. And I think that should be a job for the committee you're setting up to set up the whole communication network. And I think Officer McLean can report to that committee however often you meet, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, and get that rolling.
Number 8? No, number 10. Okay, Linda's. Will the summer van patrol cover the developments, all of them?
By development, you mean where?
North Street, the elderly, the handicapped.
Well, let me put it to you, if you want it to, it will, but that means less time down at Mystic Ave, the more time it's spent. It can only be at one place.
Again, the question arises. They're all citizens.
That's right, and if you want it, then you have to sacrifice less time at other locations.
Well, we're all important.
Then that's what you will get, which means you won't see it down there every hour.
Will you,
I mean, you have to give up if you want more.
will you participate in the task force to improve security in public housing?
Yes.
Very good.
Will you do something about the drug dealing in public housing?
We've been working on that.
That's not a yes or no.
We'll continue to do what we're doing on the drug dealing in the housing.
That's not a yes or a no either.
People, is that a yes or a no?
I can't think of what her name is.
He's on treated barbershop. What would happen if he had took that? I call them narcotics. It took them friggin' 3 hours to get to my house and pick it up. Nothing was ever said. Where are the pills now?
These are all the questions that we want to be asked of the police after the yes or no questions.
I'm sorry when my kid would have been in a coma. I'm sorry. That's it.
Can we again have a yes or a no to this question? Will you do something about the drug dealing in public housing?
Yes.
Okay, you're off the hook for now.
I want to also say, I will not lie or tell you something that is untrue or something we cannot accomplish. I want to be truthful and upfront and I won't say something that I don't feel we can do, which is why my response to some of these questions may have not been to the agreement of all.
Mr. Broom?
You caught me.
The mic on the table is working now if you want to swing it towards you. The first question we have for you, well, actually the second, is will you use community development block grants money to provide foot patrols in public housing? Remember, these are yes or no questions.
Okay. See, it's hard because that is federal money which has to be determined by a committee. But I will say this, if the committee, it has to go through a proposal. I think most of you know that. That's how we get it for the other programs. If the committee writes a proposal so that we can submit it to the community block grant funding, yes, I don't know how much I can commit, but I'll recommend that we commit some money towards the security for both North Street, Mystic, and the elderly projects. How much we can commit, we don't know yet, but I'll recommend we commit something.
Mr. Mayor, we understand this question is an indirect security question, but we feel that with your help, our teens will grow up to be better adults. Will you have your human service director work with tenants as to evaluate whether community development funded programs are fully serving public housing tenants?
Yes, I'll have them do that, sure.
I'd like to direct this question to Mr. Picardi. And when you were in the area of the housing development, will you swing through on a patrol?
Only upon a request from Somerville PD.
Yes or no? Is that a yes or no?
Only upon
Yes, is that a yes
Is that
or
a
no?
yes or a no?
No.
It's a no.
No, not as regular patrol. No, we will not do that.
If the Somerville Police asked you to respond to a problem in public housing, will you respond?
Yes.
That's it. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. McLaughlin, Director of Somerville Housing Authority, State Representative Vincent Piero, to join the other officials on the platform. Change some chairs. You can stay up here if you want. You can stay if you want. While they're coming up and getting settled, I want them to still listen, though. I have a letter here from the Mystic Learning Center. It says, in part, the Learning Center has been broken into on several occasions. This has resulted in both the loss and destruction of property. We have also had a severe problem with broken windows. As soon as the window is fixed, another is broken. We feel there needs to be a better system whereby those committing the vandalisms are dealt with in such a way that the problems are solved. Again, we suggest when someone is caught vandalizing the center, that a meeting be set up with ourselves, security, and the party involved. Through such a meeting, we would hope to resolve any conflicts that may exist and seek retribution where necessary. If after this meeting a person continued to harass the center, we would feel it would be housing's position to start eviction proceedings against the individual. It is also our feeling that security officers need to be more visible in the community to prevent acts of vandalism from even occurring. In the terms of our maintenance concerns, we generally get our needs met in due time. We would simply like to suggest that maintenance men take more pride in their work and complete tasks as if they were residents of Mystic. Thank you for listening to our concerns. We hope that out of this meeting grows a commitment to all involved to work together to make life in Somerville's public housing better for all of us. It's signed by Florence Bergman, Director of the Mystic Learning Center and Committee. Okay, is all settled? Mr. McLaughlin, these questions are directed to you. Will you work with the police to establish a reporting system on incidents of violence, disturbances, and alcohol or drug abuse? Remember, these are yes or no questions.
Yes, we presently do that in one form or another. Unlike Mr. Bradley, I'm not going to stand here. If you want to ask me questions and you would like a very direct answer, I will give it to you, but I would expect that you would show the same respect to me that I have for you to come here and speak this evening. I would hope we have asked people to treat us all as equal citizens, and let's act like responsible people. That's what we must do in order to make members of the Board of Aldermen and other public officials know that we mean business, but that we mean it from a very serious standpoint.
Next question. That was no. Will you follow up on these reports and inform tenants involved that they are violating their lease and could face eviction?
We not only will do that, we presently do it, and we have evicted people who have violated their leases, whether it be for drinking or involved in drug abuse or drug sales.
Will you keep these reports on file so that your eviction cases will be more likely to succeed?
We are required to keep them on file, and our attorney, of course, keeps a file, as well as the clerk of courts.
Will you join with tenants to lobby legislators for monies for security programs?
Yes, we will, and I want to state that going back 2 and 3 years ago, Representative Piero hosted a meeting in his office when we had the Deputy Secretary of EOCD, Mr. Flatley, as well as our then tenant representative, EOCD Representative Brenda Norris King, and others from the Commonwealth in at a meeting at Representative Piro's office, and he was lobbying them for us at that time. We have not been successful in acquiring state monies as hard as we have tried. We have worked out some arrangements through the mayor's office in cooperation with Representative Piro and Mayor Brune, and we do have some money, but not enough at this point. But we will continue to lobby.
Next question. Will you start using criminal trespass and loitering laws to keep troublemakers from hanging out in the developments?
Okay, I'm going to give you my standard answer that involves Jesse James, and I always tell this story. I did as a school teacher. As long as Jesse James and his boys roamed Missouri robbing trains and the citizens were willing to put up with it, there was nothing the law could do. That include Pinkerton agents and everyone from all over the country. Our problem is that whenever we go to push someone out of a hallway, ask them to leave, they have tenants that they are visiting. You have a right, according to your lease, to have people visit you. And I forget how long, I think it's 2 weeks at a time for X amount of periods that you can have them. We need cooperation from the tenants so that we will know who in fact is trespassing.
The questions, we've only got another hour.
Okay, but that's just something I couldn't answer.
Is that a
yes
yes or no?
That's a yes.
Will you join a task force with police and tenants on security?
Yes.
You've been working on researching problems with SHA deed and trust agreement for almost 3 months. Don't you care about this problem?
Well, obviously, if you know I've been working on it for 3 months, Sheila, you know I care about it, and I care very deeply about it. And we are, in fact, working, and we have worked with the Alderman in Ward 4, we have worked with the Mayor's office, the City Solicitor, and we are, in fact, still working on it. It isn't just a simple yes or no answer to that problem. We have worked diligently on it, and so has the City Administration, and we will continue to.
You can say.
Thank you.
State Representative Piro, will you help get home rule legislation to increase Somerville police powers in public housing?
Absolutely yes.
Thank you.
Will you support legislation to increase state funding for public housing security?
Absolutely yes. I'm the only one that can follow directions.
Just go on, Sheila. Okay, you can sit down now, too. At this time, I am going to...
it?
Yep.
Oh, thanks a lot.
For now. At this time, I am asking scorekeeper Mrs. McNeil to tally the officials' responses and ask mediator Sandy Enriquez to open this meeting for questions on the floor. Maximum of 2 minutes each question and response, please.
People should come to the microphone.
If you have a question, wait to be recognized and then come forward to the mic.
Which mic?
The one in the center of the floor.
Okay. I think it would be helpful as well as when you came up to give your question, if you would just identify yourselves for the people here and also tell whom you're directing your question to. Any takers? Yes.
Somerville Police Department. I want to know why the drugs across the street from where I live keep continuously going on in front of the office. Mr. McLaughlin, it's also directed to you because it goes on during the day.
Yeah. 15 Memorial Road, I assume? I have had an officer monitor and spend 3 weeks monitoring the activity down there. We made arrests down there maybe a month ago. Our narcotics squad has made a total of 7 narcotics arrests from people within the Mystic Ave housing project in the past year alone. You have to understand that a narcotics violation is a very difficult one to prosecute and takes weeks and sometimes months to set a case up against it. 15 wasn't too bad because a lot of it was right out front and in the open. Other stuff is going on in the projects. The projects have a drug problem, as other places do. No doubt about it. If people in their apartments selling out of we had a woman down there selling out of her apartment door to 12-year-old kids that showed up with $2 in their hand for a joint. We know what's going on, but in order to get search warrants to go in there, you have to develop a case and spend a lot of time in preparation before you can. We did eventually get search warrants. We made arrests. The very next day after the arrest, I called Mr. McLaughlin, told him the arrests were made, and he started eviction proceedings, and we're in the process of those eviction proceedings now. The eviction proceedings, I bring my guys in on overtime to go and attend the Housing Authority hearings to testify as to what's going on down there. You're not going to get every drug dealer a small-time operator in the project. You're not going to get them all. You're not going to get them all in the city or in the state or in the country. We're chipping away at it. It's like trying to hold back the tide. Drugs are here. They're everywhere. We're trying to deal with it. Like I said, I have the names and the dates of the 7 people we arrested here the past year. Maybe you know them, maybe you don't. We're working on it, but you know, we have 3 men assigned full-time to drug enforcement. They not only enforce drugs in the housing projects in Mystic Ave or up at Clarendon Hill, but anywhere else in the city, and there's a large demand for them. The Uniform Patrol has always historically been unsuccessful in dealing with a drug problem because they're so visible, which is why they're uniformed in marked cars and you can spot them coming, you're not dealing. They stash the stuff under the bushes in a car, have their girlfriend stuff it down their bra. I mean, there's thousands of ways of holding the stuff. But we commit a lot of time to it, as much as possible. And we'll continue to commit that time to it, but it's not going to be 100% of the total time of the Somerville Police Narcotics Squad, but it's a big portion of it.
Lincoln Street Park. This small, just for kids, and the parents called up because they were selling joints. Big write-up in the paper about it. In 1 month, you cleared that up. Never will Mystic be cleared up with your attitude. Do you know where the hell? I walk down the street and they're dropping it. If kids do not pick that up, who's going to intimidate their minds and tell them that it's no good? They see everybody, pizza people, everybody down there selling it.
Do you know that I'm getting calls at Lincoln, at Park, they're talking about they're selling joints in the street again today after we arrested 3 people down there, all who live on Perkins Street. I mean, we haven't cleaned it up. They're still selling joints down there today. They sell them on roller skates, the cars that pull up. It's still going on after we arrested them.
Do you realize that there's 1,500 kids in that Mystic, children, that have the influence of becoming a junkie just because they're living there, because their parents are poor?
I understand that. I understand that totally.
I think that if this was in any other neighborhood, that there would be more police, more programs down there for drugs and more free numbers. Instead of when you call the police department, will you give your name? No, my name is Joe Smart. I mean, that is not necessary.
That's right, it isn't.
Right?
I agree with you. It isn't necessary. You shouldn't have to give your name. You're not required to. You know, I agree totally that.
What? Hold it.
All right, the guy on the corner of Carter Square, come to my house and pick up that bag, all right? Can you come up and speak into the microphone? Was it reported to Somerville office that my son found 12 THCs or meth in the bag?
Probably was not.
Why?
Because we had no suspects in the case.
But why wasn't it reported? It was found in my hallway.
Can I ask a question?
Reported to the housing authority, you're asking me?
Yes.
May I ask one question? Did you report it to the housing authority?
Yes, into Somerville Police.
Fine,
Yes.
okay.
I talked to Tom.
All right. I'm just because part of the problem is how much responsibility are tenants willing to take in this issue as well. But if there's nobody there, they just found him.
I reported to both people.
Fine.
And my idea is, if my kid did take it, me as a parent, the hospital would have blamed me as a junkie of having it in my house when it was found in my hallway.
People, no, I doubt if they. I agree with you. You should be upset. I would be too if my young child found something outside my door. I agree with you.
Yeah.
And how could I stop that?
Well, let me ask you something.
How come in the housing office, certain people have locked doors and other people don't?
How come in the housing office?
I mean, because some people keep their hallways cleaner, they get locked doors, and other people don't. I mean, we all live there.
I think that may be a better question as a management question. Hold it. Time out. Time out. I think the question you're posing